Welcome to the Jewish Education Experience podcast with your hosts, Yasmina and Ari, who will be uncovering gems of wisdom with Jewish educators from around the world.
To our audience, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support, and we appreciate you sharing our podcast with others also. Please consider supporting our podcast financially by contributing via Zelle, jewisheducationpodcast@gmail.com, or by joining our Patreon community, www.patreon.com/Jewish Education Experience Podcast. And to all of you Jewish educators and students of Jewish education around the world, chizchu ve'imtzu. May you be strengthened and encouraged in your holy endeavors. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast may not necessarily be those of the hosts. If you like our episodes and you want to become a patron, you can help support more episodes just like this by going to www.patreon.com/Jewish Education Experience Podcast. Our guest today is Rabbi Nogah Marshall, and Rabbi Marshall is the education director at Congregation Beth in Voorhees, New Jersey. She is the eldest of 5 children born to a Rabbinic family with a father, brother, and sister-in-law who are all rabbis, and the synagogue has always been a home away from home for her. Prior to her arrival at Bethel, she was the education director at Har Zion Temple in Penn Valley, Pennsylvania. And before that, she was the director of education at Temple Emmanuel in Palm Beach, Florida, where she created and coordinated exciting programs, including a B'nai Mitzvah ceremony for adults with special needs, for which she received the Volunteer of the Year Award from JFCS of West Palm Beach, and as well as numerous Solomon Schechter Awards. She currently lives in the Voorhees area. Excited to be part of the Bethel community. Hello, Rabbi Marshall. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm very honored and flattered to be part of your program.
Well, it's definitely our pleasure. We look forward to learning a lot more about you. And could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you began your journey in education?
Sure. So as you mentioned a few minutes earlier, I am the daughter of a conservative rabbi and the oldest of 5 children. And, growing up, I loved being part of a rabbinic family. I loved synagogue life, and I guess I never really wanted to leave it. I grew up in Syracuse, New York, where there weren't many Jewish kids. So after I graduated from the Jewish Day School, I went to a private school where there were only 7 Jewish kids in my grade out of 42. And I guess I craved Judaism. My parents created this warm atmosphere, and we all loved being Jewish. And it wasn't just a profession for my father as a rabbi, rather it was an extension of who we were. And I also came from a family of teachers where my grandfather was a math teacher and a Hebrew school teacher. My grandmother was a elementary school teacher, and my mother is a teacher by training as well. So I guess the teaching bug was in me as well, because I loved working with children. And growing up, I didn't have to go to Hebrew school because I went to a day school, but I still went to Hebrew school because those were where my friends were.
Really? Oh my gosh.
And as I got older, I noticed that as I got older, I realized what I wanted to do was to make a difference in supplementary Jewish education. I just wanted to make it more enjoyable, more fun. And I actually, started B'nai Mitzvah tutoring right after my bat mitzvah. And I just fell in love with teaching and sharing my love of Judaism with others. And I craved Judaism because Syracuse was not, it was not like a New Jersey, Philadelphia Jewish community. Like I said, there are very few Jewish kids in my class. I went to Camp Ramon, USY, to make Jewish friends. I went to Brandeis because, and majored in Near Eastern and Judaic Studies because I craved Jewish education. And I went to rabbinical school because I really wanted to study even more and realized, I wanted to just continue learning and to continue sharing my love of Judaism to others. And I think it was just a natural progression of why I chose this path and why I chose education. It's just been in my blood, I think.
I could totally relate to starting off, B'nai Mitzvah tutoring, because I also started right after my bat mitzvah, helping out with my mom and then helping out with bar and bat mitzvah tutoring. I feel like it's a bug in there that kind of like pulls at you a little bit from a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. I just loved being in the classroom and I loved working with kids. And again, I just loved making that difference and sharing my love and joy of Judaism to others.
For sure. Are there any educators in particular that you admire?
So, I love I love Montessori. I love the Montessori philosophy of learning through doing. And, when I studied Montessori and it just really resonated with me because I didn't want to, I wanted to practice what I preach, and I didn't want to just teach about Judaism. I wanted to really have my students live it. And that is, one educator who it really made a difference in my education and teaching style. And, personal educators who I admire. Yeah. I've had teachers on the way who I have admired, but I guess my major role models were my parents who were just natural teachers, and I learned from them and I would watch my father teach his students and his congregants, and I just learned from him of how to, be a strong Jewish educator.
Well, definitely sounds like you had great examples of that. And we've noticed with some of the other educators that we've interviewed that they've mentioned the Maria Montessori and just how inspiring she was and how she has influenced them to go into education and be the type of educator that they wanted to be. So that's been a very popular answer.
Yeah, Maria Montessori is great, and her style and, changing the classroom from your traditional, classroom of rows into really learning centers and experiential education
and doing,
is, that's my whole philosophy.
I think it's also important. It ties so nicely with Judaism too. And we do so much with ritual and this and that. And it's
Judaism should just not be taught in the classroom and not just read out of a book. But again, like you said, it's learning through doing, it's acting, it's, infusing it into our daily lives.
For sure. So how do you talk about God with, I know right now you're an educator, how do you incorporate that with the various age groups that you work with?
So it really, I believe, varies with each age group. To me, God is part of everything that I do and we do. And when I teach, I really incorporate my faith and my feelings towards God, whether it's positive or negative. And the beauty about conservative Judaism is that you can really ask those tough questions of why. And you may not get those answers you're seeking for, but that is what I teach, that is what faith is all about having faith during those questioning times. And again, it really varies from the different age groups. If you're working with preschool or or elementary school children, you're going to approach it in a more elementary way that they can understand it. But when you're working with high school students or adults, you can really dive into those difficult questions and really, talk about what God, really approach those questions, whether or not you're going to find an answer or not.
Right. And it's also so interesting even to just hear what they have to say about it.
Little children ask the most amazing questions. And I'm always amazed at, the questions they ask about God. And it makes me think as a Jewish educator, and it makes me, I think, a better educator when I hear those questions, because it allows me to, learn some more and think even deeper.
For sure. I definitely agree with that. How would you define education, right? Because we typically think of chinuch and applying it that way. How would you define it?
To me, education is sharing my love and passion for Judaism with my students of all ages, and teaching about Judaism, like I mentioned before, through doing and practicing what I do. And we're supposed to teach our children, and that's passing our tradition down to the next generation. And that's what I view education as, to make it more, not as, I guess, clinical, but more spiritual, and, to connect with my students. And that's how I view Jewish education.
Yeah, I like that. It's true. And even in the Torah we read about Moshe, and he says, talking about passing it on and teaching our children. And we know there's so much that's also done in the home that coordinates with what the kids are learning in school.
And absolutely, what's amazing now with this whole pandemic is that Judaism is now in their homes. The children are going to school in their homes and are able to bring what they're learning about into their homes, because they're there, opposed to just learning it in a classroom and then leaving and going home. Now there's really no separation.
Definitely. Are you guys all virtual right now?
Well, in the beginning, we were sort of hybrid. We were rotating classes. Every week a different class was coming outside in person until the weather got cold. So now we're virtual. However, starting in the spring, we're going to be doing outside classes as well. And hopefully in the fall, when things get a little bit better, we can come back fully. But now we're making the best of it.
Well, we hope that the parents will continue to stay involved even after this whole pandemic ends.
I hope so. I hope so. A lot of some parents have even asked to continue with the virtual, which, our goal is to also have a hybrid next year, because the virtual allows students who have other conflicts to participate. And, I think it's, it taught us something, that we can think outside of the box and, and expand Jewish education.
For sure. What do you find to be the biggest challenge? I know right now a lot of people would say or have said COVID has been the biggest challenge, but what have you found to be challenging?
Overall, in the diaspora, I believe our biggest challenge is competing with other interests and other commitments, and trying to emphasize the importance of a Jewish education beyond the bar and bar mitzvah. So those, I think, are the challenges that have always been here within conservative Judaism. And it's something that, now, as we move into the future, it's not going to get easier, because you still have all the other, conflicts that kids have in the modern world, and trying to find that balance, and trying to, share my passion and get that passion infused in other people. So to me, that was a challenge, and that's the challenge I wanted to embrace when I began to become a Jewish educator. And it's something that I'm continuing to, work on.
Right. Have you found it's improved at all with COVID, or?
Like, I mentioned earlier, it's now at home. I think our attendance has been much better. we've had regular attendance. I think we're able to focus more on things online because you don't have the distraction of kids leaving early and other commitments. But then again, you have Zoom fatigue. So, you can't have a 3-hour class on Zoom that you would have in person on Sundays. So, little things, have improved, some things haven't. So it's a combination, I think.
Yeah, I hear that. It's like a challenge on the one hand, and then there's positives on the other.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
How do you stay motivated to continue educating and putting yourself out there?
So, when I experience, when a student, when I see that I've made a difference in a student's life, that really motivates me. I remember, and I share this a lot, when I was a counselor on a trip to Israel some years ago. We were at some event, and a young woman comes up to me. She was also a teacher at another group, and says to me, "Are you Nogah Sherman?" I said, "Yes." And she tells me who she was, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" She's like, "I'm leading a trip because of you, because you were my counselor." And it's like things like that. When I make a difference in a student's life, that's what motivates me. And yeah, whether it's an adult or a little, child, if I can make a difference in just one person's life, that motivates me to continue to be a Jewish educator.
Yeah, I definitely relate. I know it's that feeling you get.
Yeah.
For sure.
So what advice would you give to people like us or other new educators who are just beginning their journey?
To really keep your excitement and positivity and optimism up, and don't get bogged down on negativity, because it's easy to, things can be going, 90% of everything could be going really well, but that 1% of negativity that you may experience, may cause you to, lose your motivation. But again, if you make a difference in just one student's life, to me, that is success. And, that is how I keep my motivation and optimism. And there's so many, for new educators, there's so many new and exciting, ways to teach that is so necessary and needed. We need these new educators, because they come with excitement and positivity and want to make change, and we need that, and we need that infused in the schools, because that's what I think helps us move forward into the future.
For sure. But and you mentioned, wanting kids to connect and kind of being able to inspire them. As your role as an education director, how do you incorporate that into the Hebrew school? How do you work with teachers and everyone to help make that happen? I know it's a hard question to think about, but
so how do I work with the teachers? That's where I guess you would say professional development comes along, but working with the teachers to help them think outside the box, to sharing with them new techniques, new ideas, new programs, but it also stems from the home, to build a proper Torah foundation for our students. We need to do as much as we can by sharing our love of Judaism with the families, and not just the students. And we have to incorporate their families. For example, next week I'm having a family program, and we're doing it on Zoom, where we're going to be learning about the Shema and the mezuzah, and all the families will be making the mezuzah together in their homes. And they'll be able to affix it on their doorpost together. So it's really creating those meaningful experiences with the students and their families, and hopefully that'll ignite that spark, in their lives, and hopefully will guide them in the direction of becoming more involved in Jewish life and in their Jewish education.
The family programs that you do, for example, the mezuzah making, is that something that the parents also pay additional for, or is it already part of the?
No, it's part of our curriculum. Normally, each grade level has like a family education program. But this year, and they come into the building, but this year we've moved it out to their homes. So like we're having a drive-by pickup where they pick up their supplies. So it's all part of our program.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Do you think there's like enough of a demand for like, let's say like independent people to put together like a family Jewish education program as like a separate thing? Or does it only work because it's part of, of the bigger program?
I think it depends on your community. I think it just depends on the makeup and the nature of your community. It works because it's part of our religious school program here. It would work. I think it could work as a standalone as well. You're going to get your regulars, and maybe one or two families who would, see something that sounds interesting to have them, and they would participate. But obviously, full participation works because it's part of the school program.
Right, but especially now, I guess I'm just thinking with the like post-pandemic, like is there an opportunity like online? Do you think there'll be some sort of like family learning program, like a new sort of school that comes up?
Okay. Are you talking about specifically our school or in general?
Yeah, well, I guess in general.
I think that is a great idea. There's so many things that, people are searching for now that, they're quarantined and the pandemic. And I think that could be something of interest to families. You should try it. Let me know how it goes.
I actually am curious about something. It kind of ties into the question about the new educators. We've spoken with other educators and they talk about the need for, having a guide or a mentor. Do you use a mentor yourself as far as education? How do you, I guess?
Yeah, so I'm part of the Jewish Educators Assembly, and actually last Sunday began our annual conference, and it goes through this coming Friday, and this year it's all on Zoom. So every day from 12 to 9 o'clock p.m. there are sessions on Jewish education and Jewish practices, and so I'm very involved in that community, which always gives me new ideas, helps me connect with other Jewish educators. So I'm in constant contact with other educational directors because we're constantly sharing ideas, and I'm taking classes because, education doesn't end. Whether you're a director or a rabbi, you should always be learning. Otherwise,
exactly.
Stuck. So I've already, today I know that there are a couple of sessions I want to attend, and especially now that we've entered this whole new world of virtual learning. There's so many different ideas and programs and curriculums out there that I'm trying to get my hands on to learn, to see what we can incorporate into our program. So yeah, I have many mentors, many educators who I collaborate with and learn with. And also my teachers are my partners as well, because many of my teachers are trained, teachers in their other life, and they bring the ideas in as well. So
sure.
That's important too, to work with one another as a team.
Definitely. And how often do you typically do they do these educational directors or teachers conferences and everything?
So the Jewish Educators Assembly Conference is once a year. However, I was on, we have webinars throughout the year. We have a local cohort which meets throughout the year. We have different programs. So we're in, it's a very good tool. We're in constant contact with each other. And it's throughout the whole country. There's, hundreds of Jewish educators involved.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's definitely important. I feel like now, especially with us all being virtual learning, I think from what I've heard and from what I've experienced, educators want to reach out to other educators and know, how do we handle this? How do we do that? And so it's
I honestly don't know what I did without the internet, because I'm also on the site called JedLab, and you have thousands of educators posting ideas, posting programs. You throw out a question and people respond all over the country. And it's a great way to connect with other educators and share your ideas and get new ideas. So it's a wonderful thing. That has come out of, social media.
For sure. We definitely can use it to our advantage.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is a little bit of a challenging question. What do you think that successful Jewish education will look like in the future?
To me, I was thinking about this. I think a successful Jewish education would be more commitment post B'nai Mitzvah, to get out of that mindset that you go to Hebrew school just to get to your bar mitzvah.
For sure.
But instead, I think a successful Jewish education is trying to really get the idea that it doesn't end, but it begins at your bar mitzvah. And that's when the really exciting things happen. So to me, that would be a success if I can get all of those students to view Jewish education that way.
I definitely think that's important. I grew up going to Hebrew school myself, and I remember I was always so interested in learning and wanted to learn more. Definitely had classmates that were like, oh, after I'm bar bat mitzvah, I'm done, and then that's it.
Yep.
And it's so sad, it's.
Yeah, and you asked what some of the challenges were. That is one of the biggest challenges, is trying to change that mindset. And one of my favorite things about being an educational director is working in the adult education program, because I also I love spreading, I love teaching about Judaism to adults as well. So that would be, that's always a goal of mine, to ignite that spark in those students to get them to continue after their bar bat mitzvah.
For sure. Do you find that these family programs that you guys are doing with Bethel, and I know other religious schools are doing also, do you find that that's helped keep more students longer and want to continue learning?
I would hope so.
It's hard to really know for sure, but
right, it is hard, because you don't know if it's that one program that would, make them commit to continue on their Jewish education. But I'm hoping it would be. And, we're trying to start at a younger age, getting the clergy, having the rabbis and the chazan are part of our program at a younger age now, because we, want them to have that connection with them, that they would carry with them, post B'nai Mitzvah. So, my goal is, I hope those programs would make that difference, but I'm not going to stop trying. So I'm going to keep doing it.
That's for sure.
And share my love of Judaism, and hopefully I can, make that difference in every student and their families that I'm, come in contact with.
We hope so. We definitely want the continuity.
Right. I dream big.
Yeah. Now, are you in your role, do you also work with the younger age children? For example, I know Hebrew school is probably kindergarten till 8th grade, I'm assuming. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so I oversee curriculum, supervision, and instruction in our early childhood center. So I'm deeply involved in our preschool, and I love working with them. You know, I oversee all their, every holiday program, the Jewish curriculum, secular curriculum. So, and that's a way to get them involved, at a very, very young age in the synagogue life.
For sure.
So, yeah, they're wonderful to work with.
And they start, I'm assuming, like 6 weeks and up, or?
Yeah, we have, 6 weeks and older. Yep, all the way through kindergarten. We have a kindergarten as well.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool. So many different ages.
Yeah, that's why I love being an educational director, because I'm basically, every day is different, and I get to work with different ages throughout the week. So, one night I have Hebrew school, one night I have Hebrew high school, one night I have adult ed, during the day I work with PCC. So it's, exciting.
Actually, I wanted to ask you also about the adult education. Typically, the families that are involved with Hebrew school or the early learning center, do you find there's a good turnout for many of them that are interested in the adult education programs?
It's I think like every synagogue these days, adult education, you have your senior adults who are the most active, but we're creating different programs that will meet different interests. So we have a weekly learning class every week, like a Torah study class, and we have around 70 people who come on a regular basis, but most of them are older. You have some religious school age parents, but we have other programs as well. We have a Hebrew reading class, so you have people of all ages who want to learn, brush up on their Hebrew reading skills. We'll offer, we're doing an Israeli wine tasting program. So you're going to connect that with the wines of Israel and geography. So you're going to get, a variety of people who are interested in that. We've had Jewish cooking demos, so you have young people as well. So, we try to bring in, Jewish education does not just have to be sitting, learning a text.
Right.
There's all, you want to be innovative and interactive and bring in culture and the arts. And that's what we do to, hopefully bring in, people who weren't involved before.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what we've been working on.
Oh, we mentioned that before, even just planting that seed for the experience, and parents need that just as much as the kids do.
Absolutely. And that's what family education is all about as well. Hopefully a parent will, who wasn't involved before, will realize, oh, wow, this is really fun and exciting. Let's do another type of program. Or maybe I want to continue my Jewish education.
We hope so. Definitely.
Yep.
Well, Rabbi Marshall, it was such an honor to be able to speak with you today and learn some gems of wisdom and get to know you a little bit better.
Well, thank you. And yeah, it was a pleasure. And I love sharing about my love of Judaism. And, I love learning as well. So I'm an educator, but I'm also a student as well. So.
Yeah, it was really great to hear from you. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
No. I just, thank you for the two of you for doing this. And, I think it's so important for, other educators to learn from each other. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
I have a bonus question.
Oh boy. Okay.
It may seem a little basic, but it's just something I've been thinking about. What what makes Jewish education different than regular education?
To me, Jewish education, is who we are, and it's our history, where we come from. We have a connection. I don't have a connection with physics. I had to take it because I had to, because it was required.
Until you stub your toe.
Right. I chose to take, Spanish as a language, but, do I have a connection to it? No, I have a connection to Jewish education, and we all do. So, and it's a choice as well. That's also different than your secular education, which you're required to do.
Right.
So, Jewish education, you have that choice. And my goal is to get people to choose, my students to make that choice and, really dive into it and make it part of your lives and carry, and pass it on to the next generation. It's up to us to do that. It's, it's not required. It's not going to happen like, secular school. It's only going to happen if we pass it down to our children. And that's what we need to do, is make sure it continues from generation to the next.
Right. Yeah.
That was a good question.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm hoping, maybe we can continue this conversation.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you so much.
God willing, when this pandemic is over, hopefully our paths will cross again in person.
I hope so. Okay.
All right. All the best to you and to your family.
You too.
All right. Take care.